On the anniversary of a moment that dramatically reshaped American politics, it's worth recalling how just 1 year ago, former President Joe Biden suspended his 2024 2024 re-election campaign, marking an unprecedented end to his 50-year career in public service and sending shockwaves through the Democratic Party that still reverberate today. Biden's exit, which followed a widely criticized debate performance against then-former President Donald Trump, came after mounting pressure from Democratic lawmakers and influential supporters, many of whom questioned his viability and electability. Biden began the week defiant and committed, urging Democrats to unite and focus on defeating Trump rather than dwell on his debate. However, as party infighting intensified and senior Democrats met repeatedly behind closed doors, consensus grew insurmountable doubts. Ultimately, Biden conceded and threw his support behind then Vice President Kamala Harris, who soon formally took his place atop the Democratic ticket. Despite this hurried transition, the Democrats struggled to galvanize unity, and months later, Trump defeated Harris in a decisive landslide, clinching both the Electoral College and the popular vote, securing a return to the White House that left Democratic strategists grappling with how quickly those events unfolded and the resulting fallout. Even as the Democratic Party continues to search for its next leader, fresh investigations have dogged Biden's legacy. Newly leaked audio highlights his memory lapses regarding major life events and official responsibilities, revelations that have become the center of multiple congressional probes into his mental acuity. Both the House Oversight Committee and a Senate subcommittee are demanding records, while the White House counsel's office and the Justice Department are investigating Biden's use of an Autopen to authorize hundreds of official documents in his final months, including controversial preemptive pardons for key political allies, family members, and high-profile figures like Dr. Anthony Fauci and General Mark Milley. In total, Biden granted clemency to more than 1,500 individuals, the largest single-day act of presidential clemency in history. Congressional inquiries continue to probe whether these acts and other official decisions were influenced by Biden's declining health, creating renewed scrutiny around presidential powers and accountability as the party seeks direction post-Biden era. Meanwhile, the new Trump administration is rolling out sweeping changes across the executive branch. On immigration, Acting Director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Todd Lyons, has signaled a renewed crackdown targeting businesses that knowingly employ undocumented immigrants, with enforcement operations set to prioritize those suspected of exploiting child labor and human trafficking. Lyons emphasized that ICE will arrest anyone unlawfully present in the country, regardless of their criminal history, a significant shift in agency policy that underscores the renewed focus on high-profile work site raids and stiffer penalties for companies in violation, sending warnings throughout the business community and immigrant advocacy groups who have condemned the policy as harsh and indiscriminate. With no executive directive limiting ICE operations, Lyons said the clampdown reflects President Trump's broader agenda to secure U.S. borders and eliminate incentives for illegal immigration, a stance that remains at the heart of his administration's messaging and legislative priorities going into the fiscal year. Amid these executive actions, Congress is enmeshed in a bruising battle to fund the government for fiscal year 2025. House and Senate Republicans are racing to achieve a long-standing but elusive congressional goal: passing all 12 appropriations bills before the September 30th deadline and avoiding a disruptive partial government shutdown. The last time Congress met this benchmark was in 1996, a testament to the growing polarization in Washington. Internal divisions within the GOP complicate negotiations, especially as President Trump calls for a $163 billion cut from non-defense government spending, demands that House Republicans generally support, but that face skepticism in the more moderate Senate. Sharp disagreement persists over the Senate's 60-vote filibuster threshold, which requires bipartisan compromise, amid accusations that Democrats are preparing to engineer a shutdown as leverage. Senate Majority Leader John Thune and Senate Appropriations Democrat Patty Murray continue to trade blame, while House Appropriations leaders begin to quietly accept that a short-term funding measure, known as a continuing resolution, may be inevitable to stave off a shutdown. Although recent victories on defense spending bills are a positive sign, most non-defense bills are not expected to face full House votes before Congress's September return. With razor-thin majorities in both chambers and the memory of recent standoffs fresh, many lawmakers acknowledge that ultimately, cooperation will be necessary, but political pressures make the path forward uncertain as the deadline looms. In Boston, another high-stakes confrontation is unfolding between Harvard University and the Trump administration over a dramatic $2.6 billion cut in federal research funding. Harvard filed suit in April, arguing the freeze is both unlawful and unconstitutional, threatening critical scientific and security work, including cancer research and veteran support. The administration contends the move is justified, alleging Harvard has failed to sufficiently address anti-Semitism on campus and has, in some cases, coordinated with the Chinese Communist Party, accusations Harvard strongly denies. During Monday's hearing, Harvard's attorney described the funding freeze as a coercive attempt to force university compliance with White House policy, violating both First Amendment and Title VI protections. The Justice Department insists it has the contractual right to revoke funding if recipients don't fulfill federal requirements. The presiding judge, Allison Burroughs, indicated skepticism over the administration's justification for abrupt, sweeping financial penalties and is weighing a summary judgment to avoid a lengthy trial. President Trump has vowed to appeal any unfavorable ruling, while Harvard asserts this is a broader effort by the administration to impose ideological conformity nationwide. The case marks just one front in the administration's campaign against elite academic institutions, which also includes attempts to restrict Harvard's ability to host international students. Until a ruling is issued, billions remain in limbo, and higher education institutions across the U.S. are watching closely, aware that the outcome may set precedent for future federal university relations. Simultaneously, the financial landscape is shifting with the Congressional Budget Office's latest analysis of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, President Trump's signature legislative achievement this term. The CBO now projects the bill will increase the federal deficit by $3.4 trillion over the next decade, a sizable upward revision from earlier forecasts. Although the bill is expected to reduce federal spending by $1.1 trillion, it will also decrease government revenue by $4.5 trillion, the nonpartisan budget office notes. The legislation enacts wide-ranging tax cuts and spending priorities, seen as essential to Trump's second-term agenda, but critics warn of long-term fiscal consequences and question whether economic growth will offset ballooning deficits. As the administration presses forward with its policies and a Congress divided over spending, these calculations add urgency to legislative debates and affect everything from government funding to social programs and future tax policy. The convergence of political, economic, and institutional disputes underscores the volatility of the current moment, signaling the start of a new era shaped by both lingering uncertainty and decisive new power shifts in Washington.